Right, everyone, we'll get going. So just to put Neil in the picture, this is Neil from ShotScope. He's already mentioned he's come all the way from Glasgow. I want to thank you very much for coming. So I, with Tommy backing me, I'm 100% committed to getting the best out of these golfers. My dream was to win the Open. I trained at Royal Birkdale. I could see it, I could touch it, I could go into a big room, all the signage for the Open was there. I used to see all the famous golfers, I used to meet them. I didn't make it, but I tried my absolute hardest. I got within a shot once of the qualifiers, qualifying for St Andrews. I know a lot of what it takes. So we've made some technological gains. Tommy's got us a TrackMan. All the boys and girls here are either in the World Championships this year or they played in it last year. So we're collecting data all the time and we're building on it, and that informs our coaching program. So this data is going to be collected on your watch. Neil is going to explain the type of data we can get, and Neil is pretty relaxed in his presentation style, and I'm a bit of a technological dodo. Once I've been shown, I kind of remember. So no question, mums and dads, is too daft. In fact, if you ask one, I'll be grateful and somebody else will be too. So I want to thank you very much for repaying my commitment to the boys and girls, and by turning up tonight, because a lot of people haven't, and they cried off today, which was a bit disappointing, but there we go. Shifting time, a couple of them have got a genuine excuse, but I will remember when we get to Ireland, people needing help, people have been absolutely committed to matching my commitment. I will remember the people who've come here, so thanks a lot. So without further ado, we'll hand over to Neil. Let's give him a round of applause. Have you come, whereabouts in Scotland have you come from, Neil? Did I say Glasgow?
Yeah, I actually live in Musselburgh, which is near Edinburgh.
Oh wow.
So ShotScope are based in Edinburgh.
Oh, right.
But I'm from Glasgow originally.
Oh.
You might tell from the exotic
Don't
accent.
want any
I'm from
trouble.
Glasgow. Yeah.
Don't want any trouble.
Sorry.
So fantastic. So you are right from the heart of the US Kids European Championship. All
Yeah.
around Edinburgh it takes place, doesn't it?
Yeah. Craigie Law's about 15 or 20 minutes from me.
Oh, is it? That's where my son played
yeah.
his last one, yeah. So anybody around the age of 10, 11, if you get in the European Championships US Kids, which I can get you in through Tommy, you will play at Craigie Law. So yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, lovely part of the world, yeah.
Great stuff. Right, off you go.
Yeah, thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. As I say, sorry about the shift in time, but I was having to rely on the British public transport system, which isn't always as reliable. But I made it, so I do appreciate you coming along. So I'm Neil, and I am an account manager for ShotScope in the UK. So I kind of look after various academies, golf centres, retailers, basically anything to do with the UK. I'm kind of your man to go to in terms of our products, our new academy platform, and just getting the products out there and introducing them to you. So I will need to keep moving forward to move to the next slide, but just ignore me. So, ShotScope, you may or may not have heard of us before. We're leaders in subscription-free performance tracking. So we have a range of GPS watches, handhelds, rangefinders, shot tracking and software products. Based in Scotland, we're founded by a team of golfers and technology experts 8 years ago. I've been with the company for 7 years, so I've kind of been in from the start, the startup company, done everything under the sun, and now we're really grown into a company. We started with 5 of us when I joined, and there are now 29 employees. So even through the pandemic and things like that, we were still employing and taking on people. And you know, golf had a little bit of a boom in that time as well, and that's continued through since we've come out of the lockdown as well. Basically, our vision at ShotScope is to change the way golfers collect data, allowing for simpler understanding and ultimately faster improvement when they play golf. So you can see a couple of numbers here at the bottom. So we're used in over 160 countries around the world. We're able to do this because we own our own course mapping database. So we have over 36,000 golf courses mapped in the world, which means you could turn up in Fiji and with your shot scope and go and play a golf course there, because we've got them all mapped. It also means that should anything change on a golf course, so a new bunker gets added, for example, we can make those changes within 24 hours. So if you let us know the day before you play, we will make sure you've got the most up-to-date course map, so all your yardages and everything are right when you play on the course. So over a 12-month period, we see an average reduction of 4.1 shots, which I think you'll agree anyone would love over a 12-month period. And that's something that we've seen over recorded shots that we've got in our database and through some stories that we've gathered with consistent ShotScope users, and this is the average reduction, which is fantastic really, because everyone wants to play better golf and shoot lower scores. So we've recorded over 200 million shots from our user base, which is a huge pool of shots. So basically what that means is when I go into the data that we'll look at, everything that we can compare your ability or your data against is against all of these shots. So it really is a large pool, so when we're actually making comparisons, it's very useful information and very relevant information, just because that database keeps growing and growing and growing. The more shots we have and record, the more useful the data will become. And finally, at the end there, we're trusted by over 100,000 golfers, and that's growing every single day. We've got a really loyal customer base, and we've had people that have come in from our very first version of our product, the V1, up to our very most recent product, which launched 2 weeks ago, the X5. So we've got a very loyal customer base, and they help us develop our products. We're very good at listening to customers, listening for features that they might want to see, some stats they want to see. We always take that feedback on board and do our best to implement that the next time we release any updates.
Just a quick question there.
Yeah.
So because of all your shots that you've created, and the golfers are going to be putting their handicaps into the app, any of the data that you draw, let's say if it were driving or putting, they can compare what their putting round was like, let's say if they're a 20 handicapper with the average 20 handicapper performance.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And the ShotScope will tell them in which areas of the game they're beating the average 20 handicapper and which areas are weaker.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So we are able to do handicap benchmarking. So say you're a 20 handicap and you want to get down to a 15, you're able to compare your data against the average 15 handicap, so you can see the areas you need to improve very quickly to get down to that next level.
Yeah, so now Neil may well have gone on to cover that, but that for me was quite a revelation. You could have a short game, for instance, boys, let's say putting, and you could measure that against a world-class golfer. Yeah. So let's say if you're approaching world-class for putting, Will, we know statistically you are. When Will arrives at Champion of Champions or the European Championship, whatever you choose to play in, Will, we know he's going to be one of the best putters. So it's arriving with those certainties is great boost for your confidence. And if anything is falling significantly below, it lets me know where you need coaching, and you mums and dads are going to know too. So it's accountability for mums and dads, for golfers, it's accountability for me, and that's great value.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Thanks. So just a little bit about actually how the technology works. So this is our newest watch, the X5. The V3 is the older model. It's deconstructed there, but that's still our most popular product by far, and it's still getting used, and it's still available at the moment. So basically how it works is that you receive 16 tracking tags with your tracking product. So you can see a little tag here, there's one at the end here. So there's a RFID within the watch. Now what that is, if you ever make a contactless payment, like with a card, it's the exact same technology. So basically what happens is when you hold your club and it's got a 9-iron tag in it, for example, the watch would automatically detect which tag you're using. And because it's so close to where the watch is, just like you would with a tatless card. It kind of reads it and it confirms the club that you're using, and then ultimately it confirms your location on the golf course, and then it's able to track every shot you then hit when you play a round of golf. The tags are very lightweight, and as I say, you do get 16 of them, and they're all marked individually. So there's a D for driver, 3W for 3-wood, etc., all the way down to putter. So we recommend putting them in the relevant clubs that you use. You wouldn't notice them in the club. They're very lightweight. They really make no difference to the club when you put them in. There's also no battery in the tags either, so you don't need to replace the tags regularly. The battery won't run out because there's no battery in it. It's all kind of taken away from that. Which is another aspect of it, because some competitors have batteries in their tags and they're very expensive and you have to replace them often, whereas the ones we've got, that's not the case at all. So you're able to use one set of tags that you'll get. I've had the ones in my clubs for 3 years now, still work absolutely fine, not had to replace any of them. So it's another bit of peace of mind if you are putting them in and you're playing a lot of golf, that you can get a lot of use out of them. So yeah, that's basically how the product works. We do have a handheld device, the H4, which offers performance tracking. That works slightly differently to the watches. The reason being is the H4 can be worn in several places when you play golf. Not everyone likes to wear a watch when they play golf, or maybe because there's some juniors here, the wrist size might not be the correct size. But that doesn't mean you can't still track your performance. So the H4 comes with a little belt clip, so you can attach it to your trousers. You can even just put it straight in your pocket, or you can attach it to your golf bag as well. When you're using the H4, the difference between the watches is you need to tap the tag against the H4 screen before each shot. It will vibrate, and then it will determine which club you're using, your location, and then track your shots. So that's only slight difference between the H4 and the watch products, but it's very minimal impact on your round and when you play golf. And you still get all your data.
Have you actually got to physically wear the watch, or could you have it attached to your bag and tap it against your bag?
Yeah, if you wanted to, you could attach the watch to the bag. In that instance, it would turn into similar to the H4. You would need to tap it just because of your distance from the watch when you're hitting a shot. But you could do that. That's not a problem.
If you change your clubs, can you take the tags off and put them into the new club?
Yes, you can. Yeah. We also have, if people have got 2 sets of clubs, or maybe you're trialing a new club, because you've got 16 of them, you have 2 spare tags, so you can put one of the spare tags into another club. So it means you can basically try out a new driver, for example, with that extra tag, and you can compare the data for both of them. So you're able to do that comparison and actually see on-course performance difference with the 2 clubs. So the next slide is just kind of talking, why should I track my performance? So tracking your performance over time allows you to accurately understand your club distances, thus helping you pick the correct club for every shot more often. So basically what you can see from this little graph here, these are your kind of club distances. So we're able to work out the average distance that you hit your clubs. And the more rounds you play, the more accurate this gets. We also have a thing called performance average, which means that we ignore any kind of irregular shots. So maybe you topped one off the tee, or maybe you chipped out from the trees. We basically ignore that because that's not how you would normally hit a golf shot, because that would otherwise skew your numbers quite significantly. So we have performance average, which is what I use and what all golfers use when they're out on the golf course. This is the distances that you should refer to when you're deciding to pick a club for your shot. Performance tracking also allows you to quickly understand areas of your game that need improvement, so it helps to focus practice sessions. So as Norman touched on earlier, you're able to compare your performance against the same handicap ability or a lower handicap ability. And because we use strokes gained, which I'll go into in more detail a little bit later, you're able to see what areas you need to focus on, and ultimately it helps you focus your practice. So instead of just going and hitting balls, just for the sake of it, you're actually able to go and work on specific areas of your game to ultimately lower your scores, lower your handicap. Performance tracking also allows you to develop good course management and strategy. This can be done through course analysis and shots plotted data. So if you play the same course a lot, you might find that your one or two holes you're struggling in particular with quite often. And because we're able to see this, you're able to look at all your shots you've ever hit on that one hole, and you can see where you've performed best, what club you've hit off the tee, maybe where you've laid up to. And then it's something that you can work with Norman, for example. This is something you can sit with together to come up with a strategy before you play your next round. Because this is a really important aspect of the game of golf, especially as you're getting older and you play more. Course strategy is a huge part of getting the most out of your game for that course that you're playing. You can also compare your data with thousands of other users, which I touched on through the strokes gained, so you're able to see what you need to improve your game. You can also understand how different clubs used can affect your performance on course. So that's a little bit similar to the kind of course analysis. So you can see maybe a club's underperforming or you're not getting the most out of that. So it can actually help you look at your bag setup as well. So even like club gapping, you might notice if there's a significant gap in clubs. So this helps you make sure you've got an even spread and you're actually using the right clubs for your game at that time. Another bit about it as well, you're just able to reflect on great shots, holes or rounds played over your golfing career. So essentially somebody can use a shot scope for their entire golfing lifetime, and you'd have a bank of every single round that you've played. You can see your best holes that you've had. You know, you've got a bit of bragging, you might have had a really good drive, and there's something there, black and white, you can show somebody and say, listen, this is where my best hole, my best round of golf. So I put mine up here. This is when I got a hole in one a couple of years ago, and so now I've got that like log there in the bank, so I like to show it off like now whenever I can. So yeah, that's another good thing to look at.
It's a good time.
Yeah.
Time to show it off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, why not?
One thing I say that from using it is that I like the fact that you can go, let's say, last 5 rounds, last 10 rounds, or all of last year. So if, let's say, there's a dip or you're having a peak,
Yeah.
you can actually select more rounds.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be just on every single round, you know, over a set period of time.
Yeah.
Kind of do it as well.
Yeah, you can
So it's quite
customise
good.
it as well.
Yeah,
It's
that's
really
what I mean.
good,
You
yeah.
customise, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you can actually condense it
Yeah.
down for like the last 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because obviously junior golf,
Yeah.
they grow so fast, they get stronger,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden they're hitting it 15, 20 yards
Yeah.
further than
Yeah.
what they're actually hitting it. So
Yeah.
then if your averages from the very beginning, your yards are just going to be way out
Yeah.
in terms of what they're actually hitting.
Yeah.
Is it
So you can actually...
1, 5, 10, 15 a year or something, isn't it? Something like
Yeah,
that.
so the
Yeah.
basically what you can compare against is like a scratch handicap,
Yeah.
5, 10, 15, 20, 25.
No, sorry, on the previous rounds, the number of
Yeah,
rounds.
you can go up
It's-
to, you can do all and then I think 25 and then it's down to
Yeah,
20.
yeah.
And then you can do a custom one as well.
Yeah.
So the custom one is also very useful for, obviously playing golf in the summer is very different to playing in the winter. So you can actually focus it and get your distances for like the summer period because the ball's running out more, you know, your shots are flying a little bit differently, maybe travelling further because of the heat. So that's very useful to be able to do that, look at those date ranges. So this is their ShotScope app that we have. So it's available on iOS and Android. It's absolutely free. And so once you've finished your round using one of our products, you can sit in the clubhouse or go home and you upload your round to the mobile app. It's via Bluetooth. It takes about 2 minutes to upload. And then you're able to see an overview map of all your shots that you've hit on every single hole. You can also see your tee shots plotted and then see your club distances and then so on through all the data on your mobile app. You're also able to view this on a laptop or computer as well, tablet, you can also do that. That's the way I would recommend to do it because it's a larger screen area. You can kind of see in more detail to actually view it. However, if that's not a suitable way for you to view it, then you can view it on mobile as well. And so as I say, it's absolutely free, so once you've bought one of our products or using one of our products, there's no subscriptions to it, which again is a big selling point that we have compared to some other competitors that have monthly subscriptions, yearly subscriptions. It can get quite expensive, and I mean, I think you'll agree golf's expensive as enough as it is. So if you're buying one of our products, we want that to be it, and everything that we do afterwards in terms of updates, so adding new stats, if you request something or we make an update, it's all completely free and you do it through the mobile app. So I'm just going to go through a demonstration of the performance dashboard. So just let me know if you can see this clearly enough. I will have to sit here to do this, so just listen for the voice and stuff. You don't have to look at me. So this is my performance dashboard. So this is what you would get access to if you use one of our products. So when you log in, this is the home page that you would see. So you can see on the left-hand side here, this is a list of all the rounds that you play, and every time you add a new one, it gets stacked on top here. So you can see the time here, so this is something we just touched on there, so you can actually do it by year. So mine goes all the way back to 2016, and then up to this present year. So you're able to filter that time period. You can also filter by the handicap benchmark. So again, this is something we just talked about. So you're actually able to compare all of your data here against one of these set handicaps. So we have PGA Tour players in here, so we use the same strokes gained data that they would use when you look at golf coverage, when you watch golf coverage. It's the exact same data pool that we're pulling from. And then all the other handicap sets are from those 200 million shots that we've recorded. So for example, I'm a 4 handicap, so I normally look at like scratch or 5, depending if I want to feel better or feel worse. So I'll do 5 because it shines me in a better light, but what that does is, the information on the right here next to the course map, that's now comparing that round that I just played against the average 5 handicap golfer. So you can see that a round that I shot there was 1 under par. My average for the season is plus 5.5. And then compared to the year before, because this was 2021, it was 5.1. So you can see my season scoring in 2021 went up slightly from the year before. However, you can see in the strokes gained for the round, I was gained 11.74 strokes on the 5 handicap. So I obviously had a very good round here. So compared to the 5 handicapper, this is excellent strokes gained. In the strokes gained on my season, so this is actually just pulling the information from all of these rounds here. So all the rounds on the left here, this is my average strokes gained against the 5 handicap. So you know, I had a good year in 2021. You can see the strokes gained on average for the entire season was 4.02. So that means basically when I was playing a round of golf, that I was gaining 4 strokes against a 5 handicapper. So if I was to play an average 5 handicapper, I would likely then beat them by this amount when I played. And then again at the end here, you can see the strokes gained for the year before as well. So this scoring stats here, the front 9 and back 9, so you can see quite simply how you scored in the front 9 or back 9 for this round. And again, this bit is very useful information as well. So you can actually see how you're scoring in the front 9 and the back 9 for your rounds you've played that season. So you know, it looks like I am losing 1.3 shots more on the back 9 than I am in the front 9. That might be tiredness, it could be a nutrition thing, it could be something to look at with Norman, for example, to say maybe you're tiring at this point in the round, so maybe that's actually looking at the diet or something as well.
That would be because, Neil, they haven't been going to bed early enough.
yeah. That's probably me as well.
This tells me what time you've been going to bed, and Neil,
yeah.
it also tells me if they've been doing this too much. So it's going to tell us everything.
Maybe on call.
Yeah, so that's great and quite interesting information. You can see if there is quite a big difference between the front 9 and back 9. As I said, could be nutritional, could also be a course management thing. Maybe there's a few holes in the back 9 that are causing a few more difficulties. So again, that's something that can be looked at. You can see the par 3, par 4 and par 5 scoring here. So you can see on the round I was actually under par for the par 3s. And then for the season, you can kind of see just slightly over par. And then again, you can see all your stats based on the par of each hole for the round, the season, and then the year again. So this gives you a kind of quick snapshot of that round, and then comparing it against your current season and then previous seasons as well. You can kind of see a map over here as well, so you could actually zoom in and see a slightly more, like kind of accurate overview of all the holes that you played. But you can go into each individual hole, and I'll show you that in a second. So this gives you a scorecard of your round. So this gives you the basic information you would need. So it's got your score obviously for each hole. Your fairways in regulation are notified by an X if you missed it, or a tick if you hit the fairway in regulation. Similar, the greens in regulation, X and then a tick. And then you can see the percentages of these at the end as well. So hit 57% of fairways in regulation on the front nine, 56% of greens in regulation on the back nine. You can also see the amount of putts that you took on your round as well. So you can kind of see your outward putting total and then the total at the end. This is a bit of a false thing. I remember getting up and down an incredible amount of times in this round. It wasn't holding 20 footers during the round, but you'll be able to see that when I go into the data of the round. Again, this bit at the bottom is a really good kind of snapshot and quite an easy visualization of how you performed in your round. So you can see across the board that I was gaining strokes against the average 5 handicapper in all facets of the game, in particular approach shots. If you hover over this, you can see I had 14 tee shots for my round, and then the strokes gained per shot. You can see the approaches again, your total shots you hit for that round and the strokes gained per shot. So that all you need to do is just hover over each of these to get that information.
Neil, just a quick question.
Yeah.
So this dashboard, this would come up on a tablet
Yeah.
as well,
Yeah.
and a phone, albeit
Yes.
harder to read.
Yeah.
So when you say hover over it, you just touch it on.
You would
the
just
tab.
touch it on a tablet, or you'd touch it on a phone and the same information would come up. Again, you can do it on the season here as well, so you can see your strokes gained for the season. So all the shots that you've, the rounds you've played, and then you can see the year before as well. Again, these little sections here, again, very visual and easy to understand. So it's got your average driving distance, so for the round, for your season, and then any year before. Your fairways in regulation, again, for your round, season in 2020. And then you've got all of that information as well here for the greens in regulation, up and down percentage as well, and putts per round. So again, this is just kind of giving you a quick overview, what you need. This is great for Norman, for example, as a coach to look at. He can see all of this information when he logs into his coaching platform. He can see all of this.
So for all of these, I could just
Yeah.
touch it, go into.
You basically get a mirror image of this, so you see exactly that they would see.
That's brilliant. And this, boys, there's no girl golfers in at the moment. This, boys, Tommy has somebody whose job it is to collect this data all the time and to analyse it. So like after the Masters, they will scrutinise all the data, and that's how Tommy knows what to work on. So let's say the Masters, I think Tommy finished 32nd. He really wanted to go well in that. He took the week off before. I was speaking to his people. He spent the whole week with Phil Kenyon the week before, and he played golf. Tommy won't come away from the Masters thinking, bottom lip trembling, in a huff. He will be pleased to have a whole collection of data which they've been working on for the last few days, ready to start again tomorrow. So in your rubbish rounds, they think, you know what, that were absolutely rubbish. There's valuable data there. Now, I would ask your dad, some of the golfers in here are really good golfers, what valuable data could we get out of that bit of a disaster of a round? Let's take something positive and move forward. Well, now mums might not know much about golf, dads, grandparents might not really be into golf. I can look at this, and in your worst rounds, I can find the positives, and I can find the bits clearly identifiable, like Tommy's coaching team will do, where we can make the fastest difference. You don't mind me
No,
interrupting?
not a problem at all. So yeah, that was the kind of overview of the round in the entirety, but you can then look at more details. You can actually go into each hole. So you can see on the image here, you can see the overview of the hole. You can see the distance of the hole, the score you had, strokes gained under here, and fairways in regulation, greens in regulation. This bit on the right, so this actually shows you all the clubs that I hit on that hole. So again, you'd be able to see, the clubs that you you'd hit for every single hole. You can see the distance that shot went, the remaining distance, and the strokes gained for that one shot. And you can see that broken down for every single shot that you've hit here. So you can see that hit the drive, didn't hit it particularly well, in the rough, came out, left just short of the green, and then chipped up to 3 feet, and then hold the putt. So you can see that by skipping through every single hole here, and that will just keep listing the clubs that you've hit and the distances that you've hit for that hole. So again, this is a good thing for, maybe you had a very good hole or a bad hole. This is something that you can sit with in Norman and see, did I have the right strategy on this hole? Could I played it slightly differently to have a different result?
Do you know when you're putting,
Yeah.
how does it pick up, say like, if you were to have a short putt and you were to miss it,
Yeah.
and you just knock at it, is there a system that you'd have to go through if you've missed a short putt, or?
Yeah, so basically when you're on the course, the only interaction that you'll have with either the watches or the H4 product is when you are putting. So say you were 20 feet from the hole and you had 3 putts.
Yeah.
It comes up on the screen of the watch and on the H4, it says either 0, 1, 2, 3 or 4 on the next screen depending on how many putts you've had. And what you do is when you get the ball out of the hole, if you stand where the hole is and press 3, that indicates you've taken 3 putts, and it knows exactly where the pin is on that day as well. So instead of just putting the pin in the middle of every green, it actually records where the flag was. So if say you just missed that one and then tapped it again, obviously you're assuming you would hold that putt, so you would tap 3, and then it records the putts you've taken.
Can I just ask you as well,
Yeah.
in terms of teeing off, because some of these boys don't tee off on the men's tees.
Yeah.
So they tee further down the fairway. So as soon as they get down to their tee markers, it registers once you click it against the watch or the badge.
Yeah, and basically because the way we do our course mapping is, we have every single tee mapped. So whenever somebody walks into a tee box, we're able to pick up that you're on a tee.
Yeah.
So we know that whichever tee you're playing off, that you're on there, and if you tap it, it knows which club you're using as well.
But if we disregard it and walk
Yeah.
100 yards down the fairway
Yeah.
and then tap it, it will pick up your first shot
Yeah,
from there.
it'll record it. As long as you don't hit another shot before then, it will know that you've hit a shot previous to that, and this will going to be your next shot. So even if you've forgotten, the ability to come in here, so once you've uploaded a round, you can see this edit button here.
Yeah.
So you're able to go in and actually see and confirm the shots you've taken. So say for example, I hit another shot after this one. If you click this plus sign here, you can add in another shot.
Okay.
So if I was to add in, like say there was another 8 iron or something like that, if I click add shot, I could add it in between here, and you can see this third shot's been added in between. And you're able to move it and change which club you used, so you can select all the different clubs, and then once you've done that and you're happy with your round, everything as it should be, you click sign off, and then that's it stored. And if you do then remember something or forget something, you can keep going back in and editing this. I mean, this round was from 2021, but I can go in and make changes if you think something is missing. So yeah, it's a good kind of way of actually going through your round as well, and it's something that we recommend doing is once you've uploaded it, to sit down and go through it. Whether it's good or bad, it's always kind of good to reflect on how you've played. So that's something that we offer as well. So that's kind of, this is what the dashboard will look like, so when you've uploaded your rounds here. Now we'll go into a little bit more detail. This is something that may benefit you if you're a member of a club or you play the same course regularly. So we have a little bit of information down at the bottom called course analysis. So if I were to click on this, this is taking all the rounds that I've played this year from my home club. So Prestonfield Golf Club is my home club. So I've played this the most out of anywhere else that I've played. So, and I will be for the rest of the season. So when I'm coming up with a strategy or looking at how to improve this year, this information is very useful. So you can see your overview here, your total rounds that you've played, your average score, your strokes gained again here. You just need to remember at the top to change it to whichever one you like. So change it back to 5 here. Give me a relevant kind of handicap to look at. So this is really interesting. So if I were to click on the first hole, you can see your average score on that hole, your strokes gained, and your rank. So the way we rank it is based on how you've played that hole. So in terms of having like a stroke index, do you know how you might see that on some holes and you go, this is going to be the hardest hole in the course? We basically do it so which hole is the hardest one for you and you only. So this is really good information. So you can see the 4th hole here. This is my hardest hole. This is the hole I struggle on the most. You can see that my average score is a 5. It's a par 4. So I'm bogeying this, or I have done for the first 3 times that I've played this year. So again, this is a really good way of actually seeing which holes are causing you issues. And again, coming up with maybe a different strategy, trying something different to see, maybe hitting a 3-wood off the tee, laying up instead of actually me hitting a driver here. I'm trying to go for it in 2 all the time, ending up in a bunker. I'm struggling to get up and down. So you know, this is something that again you can work with the Norman to come up with a strategy for your course. And this information only gets better the more rounds you play. It gets more relevant to how you play that golf course. So you can see your hole form here as well. So you can see I've averaged 5 across the boards. You're hopefully seeing that up and down, more down. This would be different colours, but I've bogeyed this hole every single time, so it's just one colour. You can see the tee shots here, so you can see I've hit the fairway, right rough and the bunker. So you can see where your tee shots have landed. The approaches here, so you can see your actual average proximity, absolutely miles away from the hole on average. Coming up short, so again maybe I should hit another club in. If I'm coming up short consistently, it's worth looking at that to see if I should club up with approaches. You can see your short game as well, so you can see I have been short of the green and I'm leaving it short, so the average distance is 7 feet short of the pin still. And then you can see your putting averages for this hole. And again, so you can do this for every single hole. So if you just scroll up back to the top, if you were to go back to rounds and you clicked into the hole, you can go through this for every single hole. So you can kind of click and go through each of the holes there. So again, if I go into the round data here, I'll show you another very interesting thing to look at as well. So this is a very visual tool. You know, some people prefer it to be more visual rather than text. Again, I know this is a lot of information to throw at you, so this is something that I personally find really easy to digest, and something I think as a junior, you know, is very good to look at. So this is basically tee shots plotted. So these little orange dots here, so these are the tee shots, the clubs that I've used to hit my tee shots and where they've finished. So again, once I play more rounds this year, I'll probably have 20, 25 little dots on here. So you're able to see every single tee shot that you've hit on that one hole. And because it's illuminated orange here, you can see on the right hand side, it means that I've made a par, hitting this club off the tee and from these locations. Again, if you click on each of these, the information at the bottom changes, so you can see the kind of where that shot distance was, the shot distance you had remaining, and you can see the dispersion actually across all of your tee shots that you've hit. So you can see your widest miss, and then you can see how that's spread across the hole. So again, that's really interesting to look at, and again, something that you will look at with Norman, I'd imagine. You can also do it for approach shots as well. So you can see where my approach shots have landed. So the 3 approach shots that I've hit, I've used the pitching wedge for them, and you can see this is where they've finished up. So you can see the average approach distances that I've had from those tee shots and where they've finished up. So I've averaged 29 feet from the hole. And again, you're able to click on each of these to see that exact shot as well.
So the further you go through the season, will you have more white flags dotted around that,
Yeah.
that green as well?
Yeah, so if I move it back to last year, you can see there's a few more rounds here. I don't get to play as much golf as I would like, but you can see there's a few different dots here. You can see them here as well. So I've had a driver, been slightly more aggressive, did end up in the bunker, and I made a bogey on that. So you can see that's something that strategy didn't pay off on this occasion. You can see from the irons here that I've made pars, and again when I jump forward to this year, I've had more success hitting irons off the tee, and my scores have been better when I've played that hole. So yeah, that's something that will just build up again over time. You'll get more dots as you look at it. So that's everything in terms of the rounds that you'd see. So again, a lot of information. You can sit and you could imagine yourself sitting here for an hour or so after each round and actually looking through this, going through it, and it's actually quite good fun to look at. I mean, some of you, I mean, I'm a bit of a golf nerd, so I'll sit and look at this for an hour in the evening. So, and I find it really exciting and actually interesting to look at. And the more you look at it, the more you get invested in it as well. So I'll move over to the performance section. So up at the top here, if you click on performance, this is where you can see your club distance information. So as we touched on earlier, this is currently set to my last 10 rounds. So all of these club averages are from my last 10 rounds that I've played. But you can change it, so I could look at it for the entire season, I could look at it for last year, or any year, and then you can break it down further, so you can look at your last 15, last 10, last 5. So maybe if you're playing a 2 or 3 day tournament rounds, you can narrow it down to those only, so you can see your club averages just for that tournament. You can also customize it as well, so you can put any date range you want here. Again, something we mentioned there about playing in the summer, maybe it was a particularly hot week or two, you can customize it down here as well. But for now, I'll leave it for the last 10.
You're allowed to use that in competition golf as well, like by looking at it and looking at your yards.
Yeah, it's allowed. You're allowed to use that when you're in competition. It's basically just like having a notebook. If you had made notes on an old stroke saver and you had it, I keep a note of my performance averages in my kind of stroke saver, like in my scorecard holder. I keep a list of it there, and I update it regularly if it's changed a lot, or for the summer I'll end up changing it. But that's always a good thing to have on you.
Also, Neil, it's in effect a TrackMan gathering data all the time, isn't it?
Yeah, it is effectively a TrackMan, and it's probably more relevant than TrackMan as well, because this is all based off of on-course performance. So instead of just hitting balls at a range or something like that, this is all actually real life on the course distances.
So our yardage chart, lads, the Tommy Fleetwood Academy ones, which I've got about 5,000 of, you could be updating that all the time. Yeah, so your yardages will creep up because you're all growing, getting stronger, and these golfers are the most committed, these ones here tonight, so they're just going to creep up and up, so you need to keep track of them.
Yeah. As I mentioned earlier, all these clubs are based. This is my performance average distance. So, as I say, this is taking any kind of outliers from the data out. So this is the information that I have in my course scorecard holder. So when I'm coming up to a par 3, for example, and it's 190 yards, this is the kind of information that I'd use. So I'd be like, oh, I'm going to hit a 5 iron here, for example. So if I scroll down, you can see your distances for all of your clubs that you've got in your bag. So it goes all the way down to your wedges as well. So again, this is good for looking at club gapping. So you can see if there is quite a large area missing. Like this jump between the 6 iron and my 5 iron is huge. So that's maybe something that I would have to look at. Maybe the loft and lie on my club. Something I would speak to the local pro in your shop. And this is something you can discuss with them. You can also add in your average distances, so this is actually every single shot. So again, those outliers that we've extracted are now coming in. So you can see that the distances are quite different, but we have that information available, so we do have that as an option to look at. And again, this is the fun one. This is the one that you get to brag about to people. So you can see my longest drive was 352 yards, and if you hover it or tap on it, if it were a tablet, if I hover it, you can see the hole that I hit it on, you can see the club that I played it at, and if you wanted to, if I click view shot, it would take me to that, so you can see and relive that shot and see where you hit that.
Oh, I didn't know you do that. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, so it's a good one. I mean, if you say, oh Norman, you wouldn't believe this drive I hit, and then you say, well, look, you can go and look at it together, and you can see which hole it happened on and things. So that's the club distances. On the left here you can see there's more information to look at. So you can see your tee shots. So this basically gives you a dispersion chart of all the shots that I've hit off of the tee. So you can see your left misses, your fairway hits, and then your right misses. So again, if you're seeing a collection of lots of dots here, you can see where there is a pattern and that your right miss is becoming quite a hindrance. So you can have a look at it. All of these dots as well refer to like a shot that you've hit. So again, you could look at every single one of these and see the exact hole that you hit and where you ended up. You can break it down further, so you can see your left rough, you can see your percentage, how many times you hit the rough during a round, the left rough, and you can do it for the right rough. You can see how many fairways you hit as well on that one round. So you can see that round I played in the 28th, hit 64% of fairways, so I went up my fairway accuracy. And then you can kind of follow this along.
What would your
in a chart.
target be, Neil, as a good golfer?
I mean, I want to go for like 50% or just about 50%, I think.
What would
is
the
good.
tour average be?
So if I do the handicap benchmarking here, you can see the line, so it's just under 60%. So this red line here, you can see that it's just under 60%. So even the best players in the world don't hit every single fairway.
So when we do our fairway challenges, lads, we have a 15-yard fairway here, Neil.
Yeah.
Driving games, because we're at Tommy Fleetwood Academy.
Yeah.
If you can hit 7 out of 10 down our 15-yard fairway, you're beating the tour average.
Yeah. That's the great thing about this data here. So again, if you wanted to look at how you were getting on against a PGA Tour player, just select Tour player at the top, and you can kind of start seeing and comparing your game against them. So you can see your distances as well. So you can see your distance increase and decrease. So again, winter, summer golf's very different. You can see in July, the distance, my performance average was significantly higher than it is when it gets later in the year. So again, this is something to look at, and I basically have a winter distances and a summer distances because they do differ greatly. So this is quite good.
We've got a
You got
question, Vincent.
So would I be able to do this on my watch as well?
So you can't see this on your watch when you're playing. You can only look at it after you've played. So once you've finished playing your round, you can look at this on your phone or a tablet at home or something like that. The only information you get when you're on the course is the distance to the front, middle and back of like a bunker, water or a green. So you can see the distances you're wanting to
Is
hit.
it easy enough to see, Neil? It might be because I'm getting old now, but like my Fitbit here, I find it quite hard to see in the sun.
Yeah. So we have like an LCD backlight, so when you touch it, it lights up. So it is very easy to see, like all the time. Like I don't think you would have any issue with it.
You lads might do that, or you might think, do you know what? This watch is like a caddy that never says anything, and at the end, I'll look on Dad's iPhone or his iPad, and all the information will be there. So you could use it for your yardage, or you could just think it's just tracking, it's gathering the information. When I go home, me and Dad will look at it, and I'll be able to see it as well.
Yeah, if I scroll down further here, you can see the fairway success by club. So again, this is quite a good one, strategy-wise. So you can see, hitting a different club off the tee, how many shots you've hit with it, your percentage of fairway success with each club that you've hit. You can see your score to par as well. So obviously, when I have a penalty shot, it's at significantly increasing my score against par, as you would expect. You can see my best scoring is when I come from a fairway. So it just shows you that hitting the fairway is crucial, and it does impact your ability to score. This is a really cool tool as well at the bottom. So we touched on this earlier. So if I was trying out a new driver, for example, I could click my current driver, and then I could click it against. I don't have another driver in here, but if I did, you could add it here. But in this instance, I've got a hybrid, so I'm going to compare the driver against the hybrid. So this is really interesting. So you can see your fairway percentage hit with both clubs, left miss, right miss, your longest shot with these. Obviously it's more relevant with a driver, but this is a good way of actually seeing if you're using the right club and if it's performing for you. I've done this recently with my putting, so I changed putter. So when I go to the putter section, I'll show you that. And it's turned out to be a good move so far. Like it's improved, my putting has improved for that change. So again, this is a nice tool to look at if you're thinking about changing a club in your bag.
Going back to putting as well, like you mentioned to Josh before, that you've got to actually tap 3. But if you want to look at your putting overall, can you decipher which is worse, your shorter putting or your longer putting?
Yeah,
in terms of-
if I go into putting, I'll be able to show you so we break it down into different distances, so you can see if you're better at your short putting or long putting, and which ones to work on. So we'll go through that. I'll go on to approaches now as well. So you can see a kind of nice graphic here, your approach shot accuracy. So this can be filtered by distance, which again is really useful. So this is actually all the kind of approaches that you would hit. So it's covering everything from 50 yards up to more than 225 yards. But if I wanted to, I could change it so I wanted to look at my shorter irons. So if I did 100 yards to 150 yards, click confirm, all the data then updates to that specific distance. So if this is something that you are working on or want to work on, again, this is something that you can look at with Norman or in your own time as well. You can see your average proximity between the 100 and 150 yards. This is the kind of proximity to the hole that I have when hitting from these distances. You can see the green success. So when you're actually attempting to hit the green, this is how many times or the percentage that I hit the green. And again, shots to finish, this is quite a good one. So it's actually seeing how many shots on average it's taking you to finish a hole when you use one of these clubs. So you can see the kind of shot differences here. So another good thing to look at. And then you can look at strokes gained as well. So this is where we use our big database of all the 200 million shots. So if I change it at the top here to a 5 handicap, this is now all my approach play compared to an average 5 handicap. So my strokes gained in approaches, I'm gaining 1.2 strokes per round against a 5 handicapper in the approach category. So my approach game is relatively solid. And you can see how your strokes gained changes over time as well. So you can see if you had a really good round in your approaches or it's fallen off a little bit. Again, you can see it by distance as well. So this is really good information. So my 50 to 100 yards, you know, I'm actually losing shots against the average 5 handicapper. So instantly, if I were to look at this and say, listen, when I'm practicing, I'm going to look at my 50 to 100 yards and dedicate a bit of time to this, because I'm losing shots against kind of lesser handicap ability than myself. So if I want to kind of maintain the handicap that I'm at, this is potentially something I should look at in practice. But again, you can see as the kind of my approach distances go up, I'm actually gaining shots. So the longer approach play is pretty good. It's the shorter clubs that I need to spend a little bit of time looking at. And you can see it by lie type as well here. So you know, it's actually off the fairway isn't great, where I'm actually hitting a lot of the shots, but off the tee approaches is good. So par 3s, you know, I'm doing well there. In the rough, I'm actually doing well when I'm in the rough. So again, I'd be looking at, you know, on the fairway, when I'm practicing, I'd spend a little bit of time between 50 and 100 yards practicing off tighter lies, like off the fairway, and see if I can work on my approach play from this distance. Short game, again, so you get an overview here, so you can see your up and down percentages. I find this one really useful because far too often from what I've seen working for ShotScope, people pull the 58, 56, 54 so many times around the green or within 50 yards when they should really be using a variety of clubs. You know, having something that getting the ball in the ground, running, you know, getting the ball, like it takes away the variability. And you can see that like when I play an 8 iron, I hit quite a lot of shots with it, and my up and down percentage is far better than it would be with my 54 or 58.
Is that pretty much across the board with lower handicap golfers? You seeing that as well?
Yeah, so you're kind of looking at it like when we've got our own spreadsheet, we pull from the database the variety from a scratch to a 5 handicap golfer. They use on average about 7 clubs on short game shots, whereas handicaps above that use 4. You know, so it's quite, and you can kind of see it's maybe worth something practicing. You know, having that variety, using different shots around the green. Again, you can see a proximity. So these are all shots within 50 yards is what we class a short game shot. So you can see I've hit it to 0 to 5 feet. You know, I hit quite a lot of the time, and then there's slightly greater ones here as well. Sand save as well, so you can see your bunker sand saves. that'll go up over time. I obviously didn't get in any bunkers on any of these rounds, so it's not actually impacted here, but you would see your sand save percentage as you went along. And the shots to finish, again, this goes back to that using the variety of clubs, so you can see, you know, that 8 iron, again, it's actually less shots to finish than it would be for some of the other clubs.
Do you know what that sand save?
Yeah.
Would you be able to say, like, at that moment in time, like on your watch, I'm in the bunker?
Yeah, so again, because of our course mapping, we basically map all of the features of a hole, so we know when you've walked into the fairway, into the rough, or into a bunker, so we'd know you were in a bunker. So when you uploaded your round, you'll be able to see that little shot in a marker placed in a bunker.
Here's a quick question, Neil.
Yeah.
I had it down to ask, but that just reminded me. The par 3 course here, Woodhay Dunes, is pretty good.
Yeah.
But Bobby, one of our top golfers, he's been trialling the watch.
Mhm.
We've struggled to get that course up.
Okay.
What would the situation be with that? Is it because enough people haven't played it, or
Well,
Shot Scope haven't mapped
Yeah, I'd
it?
have to look at it, but I mean, if it's a full kind of par 3 course, if it's not on there, then we can map it. And I said we can do it within 24 hours. So if you,
Oh,
So, sorry, I was just going to say, you need to press the arrow across one. It picks up Formby Hall 18 hole, and there's an arrow to go across to the Woodhay Dunes one.
so it has got it.
Yeah,
hasn't it?
Bill's done it. Bill's mapped
Okay.
it on there. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you've got a place where it's got multiple venues,
Yeah.
you've got to like go across on your watch. There's like an arrow it shows you to go
There you
across
go.
on the watch.
Oh, that's great.
saves me mapping a golf course as well. So
Because
that's great.
yeah, no, that one is
That's a
definitely
lot of
mapped.
walking.
Yeah.
That's a lot of walking for you.
Yeah, so that's the short game. Again, with all of these areas of the game, strokes gain data is available. I won't go through it in as much detail, but you do have all of that available. I'll move on to the putting as well. I've had a little question about that, so I'll move on to this. So the putting, you can see your average putts per round. Again, this is compared to a 5 handicap. So you can see the putting average here. So you can see your putting stats. So you're missing long, missing short percentages. So miss long 33% of the time. You know, and missing short 50% of the time. You know, it's you kind of want to be missing long slighter to actually have a chance, but I mean that's all relative to the hole you're playing. You can see the longest putt you've holed my entire season 2021 was 37 feet. Lowest putts was 25. Average holes per 3 putt. This is quite a nice stat. It gets a bit competitive as well. So maybe if you are setting up the teams, you can see who's got the highest or the average holes per 3 putt. You know, for I think it's Will who's a very good putter here. Yours could be like 60 holes before you get a 3 putt. You know, and that's something that's quite a good.
So
Again,
is that possibility, is there, to set up teams in
Yes,
that?
yeah.
So in my pod idea,
Yeah.
you could have, yeah, it's great.
yeah, you can have teams set up so you can compare the kind of 4 players. You can compare specific stats against a couple of players as well.
You're going to get sick of me ringing.
Again, you can see the number of putts per green, so you can see 1 putt percentage, 2 putt percentage, and 3 putts here. And this is a little bit the question we had here. So this is the make percentage, so you can see we break it down between 0 and 3 feet, 3 to 6 feet. So you can see your average putts that you make from these distances. The total shots you've actually had from this length as well. And you can kind of see their kind of full percentage here. So short putting's pretty good here, quite happy with that. But again, obviously you have less of these hopefully when you're playing around, but again, something to maybe work on. This little arrow here, this 10%, this means I'm down 10% against the average 5 handicap from this distance. So again, when I'm practicing putting or I want to go to the putting green, I'd maybe measure out a distance, maybe a 10-foot putt, and this is something that I would focus on. You know, try and get that up that at least 5, maybe get up to that 10% to bring me up there. You can see your distance of your putts made, so this is kind of like total footage that you would see in like when you watch TV coverage. So you can see I had 65 foot of putts made on this round, so you can see your total putts distance made. Your first putt distance as well, so this kind of links back to approach play. So you can see the round in September here, the average first putt that I started from was 19 feet away. And this comes back to that pin collect I was talking about. So because we input how many putts you've had in the pin location, this data is really accurate. So it's relative to where the flag was on the round.
quick question, Neil.
Yeah.
Let's say someone's played a hole and they've moved on to the next hole and
Yeah.
they've forgot to do the pin collection data. Is there any way that they can get around that after the fact?
Yeah, so you have the option of going back a hole and it'll come up with a pin collect to put it in.
Okay.
But then if you don't even do that, once you go and upload your round, you can edit that in. So you can
Okay.
put in how many putts you had
That's great.
when you upload the round. So this is what I was talking about with the kind of putter as well. So I need to go up and change the year because I only put the putter in recently. But again, this is where this comparison tool is quite nice and beneficial to me. So the Odyssey was the old putter that I used, and the new putter I've got. Obviously, it's based on only a few rounds so far, but I'm quite happy with the move I've made in terms of the 3 putts. I mean, that's a huge difference, 24 to 36. Lowest putts so far, is slightly higher, but the average putting's okay, is the same. Putts per greens and regulation is the same. That 3 putting percentage, I've made the change, and I'm very happy with that because that's obviously going to make me shoot better scores. So again, this is a really nice tool to look at when you're looking at your club setup. Finally, I'll move on to the scoring. So you can see an overview of your scoring. So again, you can filter it by year, so you can see each of your scores relative to the par, how that's going up and down, so you can track how you're performing over a set period of time. Your score breakdown, again, this is quite nice, so you can see like your percentage of birdies, so 10% of birdies. It's had 27 of them in total in 2021. See your total pars, bogeys, double bogeys as well here. Your front 9 scoring and back 9 scoring. Again, this is something I touched on earlier, so the back 9 scoring is worse. So again, this could be numerous factors in this, but something to look at. And then finally, you can see your par breakdown as well. So you can see how you scored on that round or for the entire season on par 3s, par 4s, and par 5s. So you can see that there. So that's basically in terms of the stats. I know that's an incredible amount of information to take in, so I'm glad we're recording it because it's something you can always look at and go back with. But there really is an abundance of data here, whether it's you looking at it and you just want to look at some of the graphs. It's quite nice to look at, but this is something that Norman will have access to. So this is where Norman hopefully will be spending a few hours every night looking at this and coming up with a plan based off of the data as well.
No more easy.
One thing I will touch on quickly is this is quite a nice feature as well, especially for like juniors and like achievements. So we have a medal feature. So every time you play a round, you can unlock several medals.
Oh wow.
So if I click on driving, you can see, I've hit a drive over 200 yards all the way up to 275 yards. So if you know you've got a medal to unlock, this gives you something to like aim for. So you can see your fairways in regulation. I've managed to get up to 11 fairways in regulation, which is quite nice to kind of look at. And again, if you know you're going on holiday or playing abroad, you can unlock different locations, different countries that you've played in as well. So it's kind of like a fun feature to look at, especially if you're playing in little teams. You can compete to see who's unlocked which medals and things like that, which is really quite good fun. So yeah, just the very final thing, this is not based on the data here, but when you do have one of our products, when you sign up, what you will be asked to do is set up your My Bag. So this basically is determining which tags that you're setting up to which club. So you can kind of see here that there's like a D tag here, a 3W tag, and it goes all the way down to a putter here. So when you are setting up your bag, I've put my D tag in my driver. So I've got my Callaway XR16 Pro in here, so that's the driver that I'm using, that's the tag that's currently in that club. And you can kind of see it along the whole bag setup here. Now you'd be asked to confirm which clubs that you're using. So if you want to add a club, you can say, right, I've got a driver club, the make, so you can go down and we've got all the clubs listed here. So say you've got a Callaway, and then you can pick your model here as well. So if you were to go down, let's just pick this one for the moment, submit it, it'll come up down here. So then you would move this into the relevant tag. So say I wanted to get rid of this as my driver, I would move this one in. And so that means the next time you play, or the first time you play a round of golf, when you upload your round, we know that you've used this Callaway Diablo Tour for that round, and all the data that you collect is for that club. So you can add as many clubs as you want down here at the bottom, so you could have 30 or 40 different clubs, and you can add and change them depending on how you change your bag. But this is something that you will be asked to do the first time you register and set this up. But it'll probably take 10 or 15 minutes to do that, just to make sure that you've got your clubs listed and your tags arranged the way you want them to when you play. So I realise I've done a lot of talking, so I think that is everything from the dashboard end. So I'll just kind of finish up here quickly. So yeah, the ShotScope Academy. So all the information I just showed you there on the dashboard, this is going to be available to Norman. So basically Norman has access to view your account, so he can look at all your rounds you've played, look at your data, and then he's able to kind of make notes of things that he's noticed, maybe things that you're going to work on when you practice. And you know, it really helps get the most out of the time that you spend when you're playing and practicing. There's also a messaging feature here as well. So I know that probably parents will be using this as well, so you can actually use this to help organise maybe a lesson, or maybe you say you've noticed something that when your child's been playing, listen Norman, can we look at this the next time, or can you have a look at this round and look at the data here? I think this is something that I've flagged up and maybe we could look at. So it kind of helps with that communication as well, so it shows that you're both engaged, in the data, and that Norman keeps up to date with what's going on as well.
Do you know the app? Can that just go to the one phone, maybe, like, or can it go to?
Yeah, so if you have one account, so basically, so if you're using an H4,